Hi friends, my name is Debbie, and if you're new here, welcome to the channel and welcome to this art community. Today we're going to be painting this beautiful bouquet of flowers. This is going to be loose floral mixed media. So for paper, we're going to be using 100% cotton paper, my Paul Rubens paint set, and just to remind you, this is just a reference photo. I do not paint realistic. So let's jump in and get started. We're gonna start off by doing the first flowers, and I'm just using whatever leftover I have in my palette. This is kind of like a green color that I have left. I'm using a lot of water. We want to keep this first layer really nice and light. I'm using the flat brush. So the way I use this one is when I put it flat, I wiggle it to get those beautiful wedges from the petals. And I also use the side of the brush, because when you use the side of the brush, it becomes like any round brush. So you can get really thin marks, and then when you use it completely flat, that's when you get your thicker marks, if that makes sense. So now I'm adding some of my dirty water color that I have here, and just adding some shadows that I see inside the flowers. Some kind of like a greenish color, beautiful color on the inside. So I'm just dropping that color inside the flower, and because it's wet, it's gonna spread really nice and beautiful. Now I flip my brush and I'm using the edge of my brush, and I'm just making marks on the paper, and this is gonna give you some beautiful shadows that you did not have to work so hard. Just making those lines that represent this kind of petals. And if you don't have this kind of brush, you can use anything that is sharp, maybe like a palette knife, or if you have a credit card that is old, you can cut a piece and just use that part of the credit card. Now I'm applying some of my cadmium yellow, really light. Like I said, this is just the first layer. So we're gonna move on to the center flower, and this is my pink color in the palette, which is kind of like alizarin crimson, and I'm using lots of water, not too much pigment, and I'm applying some of the edge. I'm keeping it nice with the pink color, and then I'm picking up some more water, wiggling the brush as much as you can, and this is going to give you these beautiful organic petals. I'm adding some more pigment just to the edge of my petals, and then I'm doing some lifting inside the flower, just to give the highlight, because then we're gonna add some cadmium yellow to the center. Really light. We don't wanna put too much pigment, just really light. And then I'm adding my sap green into the center as well. We're moving to this beautiful, kind of like a coral flower. So for this one, I'm using my pink. I added some of my yellow to make this coral color, and then I'm picking up water, just putting those beautiful colors, making those loose petals, and the more you wiggle, the better it looks. I'm adding with the side of the brush, not too much pigment, more water than pigment. And then you can do some highlights, just picking up some of the pigment, dropping some of this cadmium yellow in the center to bring those beautiful colors together. And because it is wet, the paint is going to continue moving, beautiful, nice and organic. Then we're adding some more to the edge of the flower, and I'm adding the same color, just a little bit more concentrated color, and this is gonna give you those beautiful shadows inside the petal without any effort. And then we're making some marks in some areas just to bring those shadows into place. And you don't have to worry too much about this because this is just our first layer. We're gonna go back to it, and then I'm gonna be adding some more texture and more details. Then we're moving to the last flower on the left, and the same concept. We're using lots of water. Wiggle your brush for those beautiful organic petals. And you can use a round brush if you don't have this kind of brushes. Don't go and shop for it. Just use whatever you have at home. And remember to add more pigment to the edge of your flowers. And that's going to give you these beautiful shadows on your petals. I was running out of space, so this is going to be a little bit more compact, but it is okay. It is going to be pretty. Then I put some cadmium yellow inside, and then for this other flower, I'm just using my orange with a lot of water. So sometimes I use more pigment, sometimes I just pick up water. And I apply the water on the paper, and whatever leftover paint on my brush, that's where you get your highlights. Then I'm cleaning the brush, picking up some of my cadmium yellow, doing some lifting for some more highlights inside the petals. Putting those highlights back into the paper, and then putting some more cadmium yellow and adding some more of my, this one here is my orange, and I added some of my red, just to give a different color kind of. And then we're moving to our white flower. So white, it's really hard to create in watercolor. So what I'm doing right now is just using kind of like my shadow color. So it's my ultramarine blue and my burnt sienna. Really light on the color. A lot of water. I would say like 90% water and then 10% color. You can use more water than color. That's gonna make your flower look even lighter. And remember to wiggle your brush as you go. You wanna have those beautiful kind of like wonky wedges that the flower has. So the more you wiggle, the more realistic it's gonna look. Then drop in some of the darker color in the center. I see this part of the flower is kind of bent. So we're giving that shadow into the petal and then keeping the rest with the highlight. Now I'm adding my cadmium yellow, and my palette is a little bit on the dirty side. So I'm picking up yellow and whatever leftover is in the mix. But that's okay, it's just gonna give you beautiful colors, more dimension, because you're gonna have your browns and your yellows and your greens. So it just make your flower even better. Do not worry to clean your palette. The dirtier, the better. I think this just give more definition to your flowers, and it's just make them pop even more. I'm adding just a touch of my pink in some areas where I see there's some hint of pink sides. So I'm putting a little bit of my pink. Just few touches here and there, not too much. And then we're gonna be doing the same with this other tiny flower here. Picking up some of the yellow and whatever leftover I have in my palette. And just using the side of the brush for some of the side petals. Some are facing down, some are facing sideways, so we're trying to achieve that. Then for this other flower, I'm using the pink with a touch of brown, and you can use either umber or burnt umber and lots of white, and lots of water, I'm sorry, lots of water. And then we are applying this as we go. Wiggle the brush, continue with that wiggle. This is the way you distress yourself. Hey friends, remember I'm also on Instagram, so you can follow me there, where you can see a lot of the short videos and also a lot of my pictures that I post there. Make sure you follow me on that one too. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel for the YouTube channel, where I have a lot of videos. If you want to learn different techniques, I have, buildings, I have flowers, I have landscapes, I have a lot of things, oceans. So if there is something that you want me to paint and you don't see it, please let me know in the comments, and I will be more than happy to help you with any problems that you have. Now again, I'm using the other side of the brush for some more texture, and this is the easiest way to make your lines in your petals. Just use something sharp, and you're just going to press on the paper, and that's going to give you these beautiful marks on the flower. For the next flower, I did a mix of my alizarin crimson and some of my purple lake, and then I added some of my ultramarine blue to give this purpley bluish color, and I'm just wiggling the brush. This is one of the easiest flowers I see in the whole bouquet, and the whole composition is just wiggling the brush as much as you can. Sometimes I add some more blue to the mix, and sometimes I just add more purple to the mix. So this is gonna give you these beautiful, more natural colors into your flowers. And you can see I wiggle my brush as much as I can. And then we're gonna be adding these tiny little flowers that I see here in the center. And I'm just using the side of the brush, putting my cadmium yellow in some areas. Sometimes I pick up paint, sometimes I pick up water. So try those techniques. When you pick up water, you're gonna get lighter color. When you pick up your paint, you're gonna get darker colors. So try those techniques on your own and see how you like it. Then I have a little tiny flower here. It's on the pink side. So whatever leftover I have in my palette, I'm putting it on the paper, and then I'm picking up some water for some more highlights. Then I see there is another yellow flower here. So the same thing, guys. We just put the cadmium yellow, pick up some water, put the water there, and then I added some of my pink in the center. And friends, if I'm going too fast, make sure you pause the video, take a break, go and have a drink if you need to, and breathe. Sometimes we get so stressed out because when you're following somebody's painting, that person knows in their head what they're gonna paint and how they're gonna take this painting, and you're just following. So sometimes it's hard to follow somebody. So please go ahead, pause it, and just go back to it whenever you are ready. For this part, I'm putting just the sap green for my stems, and we're just connecting every single flower to a stem. And we're gonna bring it all the way down, because not she, but there are some flowers there, so they are all inside the glass. So we're bringing all of the stems coming down to the bottle or the vase. And we're just putting those stems. They don't have to be perfect, they're kind of in different positions. So we're just putting in and trying to fill in the space. The composition is gonna have a lot of green, so that's what we're trying to do. We don't want to see too many white spaces. We want to make sure we put a lot of green. That makes your composition look more put together and more realistic. We want to have different colors or values of greens. So make sure you have your greens ready. Right now I have my sap green with a little bit of my ultramarine blue just to make it on the darker side. We want to have light green, medium green, and dark greens. So that's what we're trying to do. We're putting some light greens, then we go to the medium greens, and we end up putting our darker colors. So for the stems, I'm just using the tip of the brush, and then I press down a little bit, not too much, because these stems are on the thin side. They're not too thick. And then I'm just picking up some water, filling in the space, just to give some different values of green. And then I add in some cadmium yellow, making this green on the lighter side, more like a golden green. And it's a beautiful green. I like that green a lot. Then for the flower, I did a mix of my shadow color, which is ultramarine blue and burnt sienna. 50%, 50%, lots of water. Remember, this is just a shadow, so we don't want to fight with the flower. We just want to blend with the flower. Really light. I'm using a really soft brush with really soft bristles. So this allowed me to use the tip of the brush, but then when I press, I get these beautiful thicker marks, and that's what we want. And shadows inside the petals are pretty much intuition. I mean, you can follow my shadows if you want, but just pay attention to your flowers or your reference photo and see where you see darker parts inside the petals. And that's what you're trying to kind of copy what you see. And don't stress too much. There's no right or wrong when you're putting shadows inside your flowers. It's just, it's just whatever you want, whatever you feel more comfortable. It is gonna look good at the end of the day. It's your painting, it's your flowers, and you make them your own. So now for this one here, I'm just using the same pink. And like I said, I'm using the tip of the brush, and then I press on the belly of the brush for more thicker lines. So if you use the point of the brush, you're gonna get thin lines. And then when you press on the brush, it's gonna give you beautiful, thicker marks, fuller marks, and it's gonna give you beautiful shadows. Sometimes I flick the brush and it's just give you these beautiful endless marks that they just make your petals look so more put together, I would say. Then I add some water in some areas, and because I have some pigment left in my brush, it's just gonna give you these beautiful shadows in there. And you don't have to be precise on every single shadow. Just put it whatever you feel that they are gonna work best for your flower. And like I said, there is no right or wrong. They are all gonna be beautiful, and it's just a matter where you want to place them. I'm just giving you an example. You can make it your own. You put your shadows where you want them, and I'm just showing you how I would paint this kind of flowers, and then you create your own painting. So if you can have a soft bristle brush, that's gonna help you, because when you press on the belly of the brush, it's gonna give you these beautiful marks for your flowers. And then, like I said, sometimes I flick the brush just to give those kind of different marks on my petals. And sometimes I don't like it, so I just take a paper towel and wipe off any excess paint. Then I'm wiggling the brush, making some lines inside the petals, and I'm just moving my brush around. Then for the edge, I'm adding some more pink. Press on the belly, picking up more paint, then applying some more contrast on the edge of the flower, picking up more paint, and wiggle the brush. Make sure you wiggle. That's gonna give you this nice movement to your flowers, and it's gonna make them look more natural. And like I said, we're gonna be using mixed media for more texture. And you can always, with mixed media, you can always fix anything that you don't like. That's the beauty of it. You can add or create your own shape. Or if you made a mistake and you don't like it, you can just go ahead and fix it with the mixed media. It could be crayons, it could be markers, it could be more concentrated watercolor paint. Whatever you have at home, you don't have to go shopping for special supplies. Use what you have, okay? Using the tip of the brush again and pressing on the belly of the brush. Now for this one here, I'm adding some of my sap green and a touch of my burnt umber. Really light on the burnt umber, just to give a little bit different value for my cadmium yellow. Then I added some pink in some areas and put in some of my burnt umber in some areas also, just to give some more kind of like shadowy color. And like I said, sometimes I press on the brush, sometimes I just use the tip of the brush. Picking up some more of the brown, putting it in some places. Not too much, we don't want to overdo it. And then going back to the first white flower, putting some more shadows in some areas. I feel that it could use some more shadows in some part of the flower, just to bring those highlights more into the lighter color and some of the shadows on the darker side. And make sure you blend. And if you don't feel like it's blending good, just like I said, use a paper towel and pick up some of the paint. Pay attention so you can see that I wiggle my brush all the time. Then I went ahead, added the centers. For the centers, I put cadmium yellow. Then I did yellow ochre for the lines. And then I added some burnt umber, and I just did little dots around the centers. And then for the yellow flowers on top, I used the burnt umber and did some dots all over the flowers. Now this one here is sap green with cadmium yellow, and I'm just making some lines going straight down, and I'm not using any ruler. I'm just going freehand. Hopefully I won't be too, not too messy, but I'm gonna keep it as straight as possible. And I'm just putting those marks. I feel like green is gonna bring these flowers together. And I love green. This is one of my favorite colors. Just filling in some of the spaces in the center. Now I'm putting the stems in the center of my vase or my glass. And again, make sure you have light green, medium green, and dark green. And we're just gonna put those stems inside the glass. For the glass, all I did was a mix of my shadow color, which is ultramarine blue, and burnt umber. Really, really light on the color. We're gonna go back to the glass and give some more definition, more highlights. And then we're gonna remove the tape. We're gonna add these stems. We're gonna clean our brush. We're gonna do a highlight in the center. Pretend that that's the water level touching those petals or stems, sorry. And then we're gonna add some more shadow color in some areas, just to bring this glass more to life, giving some shadows, some highlights. So I applied my darker color to the outside of the glass. And on the right hand side, I'm gonna keep a highlight there because that's where the sun hits the glass. So you're always gonna have this nice highlight on the right hand side. And then with some either bleed proof white or wash or a marker, if you don't have that, we're gonna add some highlights with our white, and that's gonna make your glass look like glass. So we're doing some lifting right now, picking up some of the paint. Then I'm adding some of my shadow color in some areas, mixing some of my green. They kind of disappeared, the stems went away. We're just bringing those back to life. And it doesn't have to be perfect. Remember, this is in the back of the water. They're inside the water, so the water has the movement. We're bringing those highlights here in the back. Then we're gonna do a highlight near the edge and some here on the right side of the glass. Then I'm picking up my white, putting those highlights on the left hand side where I see in the reference photo. That's where the highlight is. So that's where I'm putting my white. And then I'm putting some white on the right hand side, on the bottom of the glass, and then on the other side of the glass. Really, really light. We don't want that white to be super white. So make sure you put lots of water in it. Then for the background, I did a mix of my pink and yellow. That's gonna give you this beautiful pinky coral, and just apply it with the flat brush. We're gonna let that dry. Actually, I decided to add some salt just to give some more texture. You don't have to do this if you don't wanna have those white marks, but I think it just brings more to the picture, so it looks pretty to me. And then I'm adding some crayons. This is what I have handy, and I'm using my yellow, bringing those highlights in some of the edges of my petals, then bringing those lines inside the flowers just to give more highlights. Then I'm using the pink for the center of the flower. Those yellow flowers, they had some hint of pink. Then I'm using the gray to bring those shadows into the white flower. Also into this other flower here, I'm using the gray. And remember, this is watercolor crayons, so you can always add water to it. So pretty much we're done. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you on my next video. Take care, friends. Bye-bye for now.